The Lamier were a bloodline of kindred believed to be descended from Lilith as well as Cain. Their founder and high priestess, named Lamia, claimed to be the daughter of the Dark Mother herself. In ancient times, a Cappadocian elder found Lamia performing sacred Bahari rites, and was so taken by her skin and resistance to pain that he embraced her. From then on, the Lamier were dedicated warriors, protecting the Cappadocian clan, until the clan's alleged destruction by the Giovanni. The last Lamia was believed destroyed in 1718. However, the Gorgons lived on, much like their Cappadocian charges. While the latter claimed the title Harbingers of Skulls, the Lamier took the title of Lilins, spreading the word of Lilith and the Bahari faith, while secretly uncovering the fate of the Cappadocians and undermining the Giovanni. Now, in the wake of the family reunion, these women stand proudly, once again at the side of the kindred that embrace them. Although they are less inclined to tolerate so-called Cainites that chastise their faith or insult their martial skill. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness and another episode of Metaplot Monday, where we are going through the lore sheets in the Cults of the Blood Gods book for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. Today we're going to be going over the Gorgons, which is a Bloodline Hecata characters only lore sheet. The Gorgons are so much fun. The first time I ever got to see a Lamia or a Lamier in action was in a Dark Age game, LARP, where it was a guy who was playing her, and he played her so well. Oh my god. It was one of the first times I had ever seen someone who is male playing a female, or somebody who is of one gender playing another gender, and I have to say, there are no limitations to roleplay at that. There's no reason to look at this. If you're a male, if you're a cisgendered male role player, and you look at this and go, "Oh, they're women," fuck it, like, that's small-minded, and you really should. Like, I play females on a regular basis. I play all gender, not necessarily binary, and I get so many compliments. Like, I'm a very big, burly, bearded man, and I get so many compliments on my female characters because I can make them so believable at the table or not. And I just want to, like, I'm going off on a side rant here, but seriously, if you are one thing and you are interested in playing another, don't limit yourself. There's so much potential in acting and in role-playing for you out there that you should not stop yourself from playing something that you feel called to. So that's my PSA for the day. But the Gorgons, or the Lamier, are the bodyguards of the Cappadocians. This was something that I found so very cool. It was one of the few times where I ever saw a bloodline that actually just like called out and made sense for them being there, because they were brought in specifically to be the martial protectors of the Cappadocians, which is so funny when you stop and think about it, because before the Purge, why did they need that? Where was the problem coming from if they were such respected members? But I can also understand that it was the Dark Ages, and there were feuds, and sometimes if you're trying to attack the prince, the Seneschal might be the better place to hit, because you're taking the legs out from under him that's helping him stand. And the Cappadocians were always in an advisory position. They really held the power in those cities. So the fact that they had their own martial protection was just always something that I found amazing. Also, it's a great way to look at this, because you can have more than one lore sheet, in my opinion. In my opinion, you can have more than one lore sheet. And what I mean by that is the way that my game does it is you can take a heritage lore sheet, and heritage would basically be your bloodline. You can take your status lore sheet, which is basically how you stand within Kindred society, such as taking high clan or low clan or something like that, or taking some type of friend or mentor position when it comes to the lore sheets. And I should say, you can also take religion. I have always, like, Call to the Blood Gods has opened up my eyes to saying a religion lore sheet as well. And when you're taking this kind of thing, if you're playing a Gorgon, I think that should definitely open you up to the Bahari lore sheet, which can open you up to also practicing Bahari thaumaturgy. So you could very well come in with the Green Path thaumaturgy, which is also located in Call to the Blood Gods, with a character in the Hecata. So you have a nice character with a mix of Oblivion and blood sorcery. So anyway, that's just, again, this one is apparently full of rants. But let's go ahead and jump into exactly what this bloodline can do for your game if you take it. Investing one trait into this lore sheet gets you the Serpent's Kiss. For centuries, it was believed the bite of the lamier spread disease, a virulent pox like the Black Death. Indeed, it might have been the Black Death that was fatal after a few days. Whether that was true or not, these nights the bite of the lamier is no longer fatal, although a few like yourself have some remnants of the disease left in your system. Once per story, you can choose to infect your mortal prey with disease, causing them 1 aggravated health damage every night for 3 nights. This ability has no effect on vampires. So that was one of the things about the Lamier. They had their own special brand of the Mortis discipline, known as the Four Humors, where they could affect the biles of the body. But that was kind of their flaw, is that when they bit in, they did spread the plague. The fact that you have the option of taking this as a merit so that you can choose to assassinate mortals. Doesn't do anything to other vampires, but you can choose to cause 3 aggravated damage to a human. Humans take a very, very long time to heal. That's effectively taking them off the board. It might not actually kill them if they get medical assistance and things like that, but it causes 3 aggravated damage, which means if you cause a couple of aggravated damage and then you bite them, it's gonna cause problems. Hell, a good bite causes aggravated damage. So, I don't know. You can take this where you want it. Like I said before in the introduction to this, the Lamier were the martial warriors for the Cappadocians, so slipping into an assassination level might be something that the Gorgons might end up doing. Investing 2 traits into this lore sheet gets you protection. You embody the original purpose of the Lamier, the protection of your charges by any means necessary. You gain a 2 dice bonus when using the block maneuver to protect someone else. That's interesting. So if by investing 2 traits, you basically get the ability 2 dice added to blocking, which can be found in the Vampire the Masquerade core book on page 297 if you have an up-to-date book. So that does come in handy if you are playing the bodyguard. Now, I actually kind of wonder on this. As a storyteller, I'm pretty sure I would try to focus them being protectors towards other player characters, because that's going to lead to a whole bunch of interesting relations when it comes to how people interact. Sometimes the person who is being protected does not want to be protected, and could cause a little bit of back and forth when it comes to you trying to protect them. On others, it could be somebody who's trying to take direct advantage. Maybe this Gorgon was chosen by the Anziani to watch some upstart Hecata who is too cocky and is going to get himself killed, and they're just difficult to keep a handle on. Either way, this is an interesting thing, but the having the 2 bonus traits to utilize when blocking, because a called shot or a blocking or specific maneuver, they're always a lot harder to perform than just standard actions. Investing 3 traits into this lore sheet gets you 4 humors. Many ancient Lamia practice manipulation of the 4 humors, allowing control over their victim's body or mind. Once per story, you may bite a mortal and inflict 2 dice penalty on all actions which don't immediately further their current resonance until the end of the night, or the resonance changes humors. If their blood contains a dyscrasia, increase this penalty to 3 dice. So as I was saying before, they did practice their own version of Mortis called 4 Humors, and this is a nice representation, a good callback, if you will, to what that was. Now, it caused problems in the old discipline, as in they were able to manipulate the human in one way or another, and this kind of does the same thing. This right here says, once per story, you inflict 2 dice penalty on all actions which does not match their current resonance. So if you bite somebody who's sanguine, if they're not doing sanguine activities, it's not going, they're going to be down traits. It's going to be all they can do. If you bite into a melancholy, they're going to be even more depressed if you stop and think about it, because they're going to just want to shrink into the shadows and not be noticed by anybody, to the point where doing anything else can be massively debilitating. And if they're suffering from a dyscrasia, I like to say that dyscrasia is so beneficial to vampires, but it's such a downside to humans, because that means that they are suffering from extreme imbalance in their resonance. If they're suffering from that, 3 traits down for a human is just brutal. Investing 4 traits into this lore sheet gets you controlling the beast. Chaos and pain are the key aspects of the Bahari faith, and thus the faith of the Lamia. However, mindless chaos and pain do not lead to education, so controlling accidental inflictions of both is important. Once per session, you can convert a messy critical in combat into a critical. That's really useful if you stop and think about it, considering messy criticals can pop up from time to time, and being able to just write it off as you have a strong martial control over yourself does come in handy. If you really stop and think about it, that is just some of the best possible outcomes you can have, because how many people have won a test but accidentally broke the scene because of it, because their beast took over? Because that's what a messy critical is. You're winning, but you're also losing control of yourself, and you're doing things in a horrible way. My favorite example of this in the book is the idea of the Kindred who's in a library looking for a specific book and gets a messy critical, finds that book, and then looks around them and realizes they have shredded everything other than what they were looking for. Or trying to silence a guard at the door while the other one is walking through the halls, and then you end up ripping his throat out instead of hushing him. Bad things happen when messy criticals take over, and sometimes winning is not always the best. So being able to lower that messy to a standard is very useful. Investing 5 traits into this lore sheet gets you Medusa's Gaze. It was long believed that the nickname of Gorgons was given to the Lamia for their terrifying prowess and alleged disease-ridden blood. But those members most steeped in the bloodline's mysteries hold a private power betraying the more literal meaning behind the epitaph. Once per session, after you win an intimidation or conflict roll, those who lost become unable to act on the following conflict turn. Outside combat, they become unable to move for a scene unless they spend 1 willpower. So you literally can paralyze your victims. That's pretty cool. For a scene, too. Now, that one willpower is not really that big of a thing. I really kind of wish it was they had to win in a willpower, like, contest. Like, they had to roll their willpower. But it does say spend, so will be nice. That right there, though, that's useful as all hell. Because sometimes the next action can be the hardest to deal with. And also that the rare occasion where the scene thing can happen, where you can actually have them frozen for the scene, is gonna come in handy from time to time. I can definitely tell that. So that right there is the Gorgons. That is what they are good for. That is the Lamia, which are the bodyguards of the Cappadocians. And again, I don't think anybody should feel singled out and not able to play that if that's what they have a calling for. I am Voivode Maquette, and please keep in mind that we do have a Patreon, and I do appreciate anybody who joins said Patreon. Currently, at the moment, we have early videos up. You also have access to me on another platform where I'm not going to accidentally lose you guys. I try to check my Patreon all the time, and anybody who does comment or talk or anything on there, awesome. We also do have a pending reward for patrons. Also, anybody who joins the higher echelons of the patron, I am trying to get together a game specifically for you guys, so I can be your storyteller and we can play a fun little game that may very well affect the game that I'm running now at my table. Thank you for joining me with this Metaplot Monday, and I will see you in the next video. Good evening.